and welcome once again to another episode, if you will, of What Do You Believe? Again, my purpose is to talk with different people from different backgrounds, different perspectives about different things and find out what they believe and are passionate about in those areas. I believe as humans that there is a lot out there that creates differences in us, but that there are still common goals and interests. Now, as a pastor, I have certain beliefs that I am very passionate about, and very much of the opinion that there is right, there is wrong, there is a way to go, there is not a way to go. But I understand that my beliefs are not what everyone else believes. And I also believe that people have the right to believe differently. Even as a pastor who believes in truth, and not just truth, but absolute truth. I think that, when we read the scripture, God gave Adam and Eve the ability to choose, and you have the right to choose too. Not everything in this series is about religion. There's politics, there's art, there's all sorts of different things. And today I am excited to be able to have Blair, my friend, join me, and you are going to be talking about some things that you believe in terms of art and theater and drama and things like that. But Blair, first of all, welcome and good morning to you.
Hey there. I'm sorry. I'm not wearing makeup, and
Oh, that's all right.
I tried to make myself as presentable as possible, but
No, we are recording this. Of course, it'll be posted later, but we're recording this in the morning, and so you are more than forgiven. But real quickly, first of all, introduce yourself, who you are, kind of what you do before we get started in this.
yeah, I'm Blair Gottschall, and I'm an actor. I'm an artist. I also say I'm an entrepreneur because that's what we're always doing is thinking of the next thing to do. And with quarantine going on, just I'm just planning what my next role is going to be, and role as in producing a play or a musical or creating something, and just seeing where that goes. So a lot of theater has been canceled, actually. Like the opera season this summer isn't going on. A lot of shows have been postponed. So I know we're not talking about quarantine, but just right now, it really is kind of getting centered. And so I'm not really working on anything at the moment. I'm working on stuff at home, yes, to send out into the world, but in terms of actively rehearsing, not right now.
So you believe very passionately about theater, drama, the arts in general, correct?
Yeah. I definitely, what would you say? What do I believe? What do you want to know about? Because I believe in the power. I believe the art is very influential. For better or worse, really, whether that's theater, whether that's film. And I think that has a lot to do with art appeals to people's emotions, not always logic, but and it can be logical. But I think theater, art, film, drama, a good story, a great story. That's so primal, even going back to the days when we were all sitting around campfires telling stories, that's very powerful. And I feel like it's ingrained in our DNA. So
there's something about tapping into the imagination that can bring joy, it can bring stress relief, it can bring all this whole gamut of emotions, right? And that's what you as an artist are always endeavoring to do is bring people to a place that's different than their reality, right?
Well, yeah, and at the core, any artist, ultimately they're a storyteller. The medium is just different. And that can change. But yeah, you're always looking to tell a story. And and I think those are the most impactful. because people, they might not actively ask themselves, well, what does this have to do with me? How is this relevant to me? But I mean, people are always looking for like what happens next. They want something compelling.
Mm-hmm.
And I think really the best art just pulls someone in, you
Yeah.
know. And then there's entertainment, and some can argue entertainment versus art. They can be the same, sure, but that's very subjective too. So
Let's talk about some of the different kinds of art. And obviously, you're more like drama theater, but there's paintings, there's sculptures. That's art as well.
fine
Uh,
art, yeah.
and
They're
what
the
other
visual
kinds of
arts,
art?
yeah.
What other kinds of arts are out there that can affect people in these kinds of ways?
Um, Gosh, I mean, I would have to find a list of all the. Well, I know. Okay, so for me, I don't fit. And no, it actually, you know what? I even argue no artist fits into a box. You'll actually find a lot of different artists. I mean, I know opera singers, and you think like, oh, okay, so they sing. They just have one instrument. No, no, a lot of them play cello, banjo,
Mhm.
something. And then I know for me, I dabble in the violin. But I mean, actually, my background is in ballet, classical ballet. And that's what I was going to do, modern dance, classical ballet. And then that kind of switched just because I felt like acting was more accessible to what the kind of stories I wanted to tell.
Mhm.
Um, but you'll find that each artist, like right now, like last night, I was making a collage.
Mhm.
And, because the thing is, the tricky thing with the performing arts versus the visual arts you can do for yourself.
Mhm.
But the performing arts need to be shared with people.
Mhm.
And I even had an acting teacher once say, well, you can sing and dance for yourself, but you can't act for yourself. Well, I would disagree. I'd say that, I mean, sure, you can sing and dance for yourself. Sure, you can do that. But a singer, a dancer, an actor, they perform so that someone else can see.
Mhm. You don't
Um,
go through all of that work and all the time and all the effort just so you can be like, I did it.
yeah, I did it in my room. Like, yay, I danced my choreographic wonder in my room. Like, no, like,
Mhm.
um,
A little
but
bit
in
like
terms of like all
athletics.
the I'm sorry?
A little bit like athletics. An athlete doesn't train a basketball player, a football player, or whatever so that they can just do it for them. There's an audience, there's a game, there's a competition.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I mean, like you would never, and, the standard's different. I understand just cultures and their appreciation for different things, but like you never hear someone ask even a kid in high school, oh, that's nice, about your your high school athletics or your football. Like, of course they know you have to practice, and it's the same with um,
Hmm.
working those artistic muscles. But you were talking about different kinds of art, and um, I mean, I know puppetry is a big thing.
Hmm.
um, and that's definitely made a huge comeback in recent years,
Yeah.
even more mainstream. um Not, and I'm not just talking Sesame Street, but like, live theaters, and even movies, engage puppetry. That's personally not my kind of medium, but that's become very popular. um
But there's
Gosh,
a
I'm
lot of
trying to think.
crossover too, right? I mean, whether you're talking about, when you talked about the opera singer and the power of the voice there, but usually if you go to the opera, which I've only ever been to one, but there are elaborate costumes, right? I mean, there's the visual and the sensory, the auditory. Art kind of crisscrosses itself,
Oh
doesn't it?
yeah, oh yeah, not just cross pollinates. I mean, it's collaborative. Um I'd even argue like some, just depending on the project for a visual artist, it's collaborative, but definitely in the performing arts, always collaborative. I mean, you have the tech side, you have the lighting, you have the stage manager, you have the scenic design, you have the costumes, the sound. I mean, you have all of that.
Hmm.
And I had heard it once that if you didn't have any element, you didn't have the costumer, the lighting designer, sound, set, scenic, all that, no props. Um, it'd be a naked mime in the dark performing. So
But I mean, even like with what I do in terms of being a pastor and preaching, there's preparation that not only goes into what I'm going to present, but there's, we have lighting, we have sound, we have backdrops. I mean, even right now, the backdrop that I have up behind me, just to present different visual elements, because what I want to do when I preach a sermon is, get people to think, but also kind of create an atmosphere. And
Oh
that's
yeah.
very similar
Yeah,
to
no,
what
and
you do.
that definitely helps. And that's why, sorry, I moved my screen a little bit. Um, and actually, speaking of how the church and religion play a part in art, I mean, um, the first ever plays were, you know, morality plays. That's how theater, started. And it started by, telling the tales of the Bible.
Hmm.
I mean, everyone, like whether you're, a secular artist or not, everyone knows that. That's how, I mean, we're even taught that in school. Like that's how it began. It began in Greece, and it also, I mean, it was the morality plays that, you know, um, the church felt that telling stories was the best way to teach people about, morality, the Bible, Jesus, all that. So,
Well, and I mean, for me, again, when I hear something, if I go and I listen to a talk or a sermon, I mean, I come away with some nuggets, right? But when
sure.
I go and I see a play or a movie, or for instance, the Passion of the Christ, which came out several years ago, the difference in what you remember watching that presentation versus what you remember if you just read the story, and it's like, okay, he was beaten and crucified, or you watch it. There's a big difference in kind of what you take away and what you experience.
Yes. Yeah.
In
And
those.
actually, I really think the Passion of the Christ is one of the very few Christian movies. And I mean, I say that because unfortunately, I don't think a lot of art out there, or movies anyway, I should say movies that Christians are producing. I don't think it's impactful. I think they hold back. Um, I mean,
A
and
little fluffy.
it's very fluffy, and I feel like it preaches to the choir.
Hmm.
Um, and I felt like with the Passion of the Christ, I mean, they didn't hold back. And I mean, like, if you think about it, I mean, the Bible is rated R, and they didn't hold back, not with the blood, not with the torture. And I don't feel like they overdid it, but I mean, that's what they did. They, tortured and, crucified that man. And I think, seeing that, I mean, in whatever way that moves you, I doubt anyone who saw that film, Christian or secular, whatever, um, walked away from it not feeling anything.
Right.
Like, I doubt that was the case,
Hmm.
even if it made them angry. Like, I doubt anyone was just like, oh, okay.
Hmm.
Um,
And is
and
that
I
the
think that's,
goal?
I'm sorry.
Is that the goal? Like when you do a play, when you've produced plays, you've been in
Mhm.
plays, all those things. When you're acting, when you're producing, when you're writing, is that the goal, to move somebody, or to make them think, or to change their mind, or a little bit of all of it? I mean, when you start off a production, what is the end goal that you have in mind?
Okay. Well, I mean, as a producer, the end goal, for me is to make money,
Fair enough.
to make a profit so we can continue making more art. Um, and, you asking that, of course, like, I think every artist would love to move people, entertain them, inspire them, all these things, make them laugh. Ultimately, that's not, you can't make that the goal, because that's not tangible, because everyone is going to be different. And so, if I'm doing a comedy, sure, would hope people laugh. I would like to make people laugh, yes, but going, I think, with that mindset, um, what if someone doesn't laugh, even
Mhm.
though, like, what I'm doing, um, so I really think, like, I know for me, the end goal is just doing the best I can, trying to find the best people to work with,
Mhm.
you know, um, and put on the best quality show that I can as a, theater producer with our limited budget.
Mhm.
And yeah, and I would hope that everyone who walks away from it, it's something positive.
Mm.
I know that there are plenty of artists out there, plenty of theaters out there who are like, well, we just want people to, we want, maybe they don't say it, but they're not afraid to shock or offend or whatnot. And I mean, maybe if I'm, powerful enough one day and have enough money, I can do a defensive play. I don't know, but that's not my goal.
Mhm.
And that's very subjective as well. What you'll find is a lot of, I mean, all art is subjective. So,
Absolutely. What drew you into this vein as opposed to, I mean, I'll just say it like this, a more traditional
mhm.
career path? I mean, how did you get here where you're passionate about this instead of being passionate about animals or trees or space exploration or whatever it might
It's so funny that you mentioned that because, like, when I was little, and actually until I was like in sixth or seventh grade, I had wanted to be an astronaut. But um, I'm okay at math in terms of like make adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing. But I mean, that's just not. And I never like to limit myself and say like, well, science and math, I'm just not good at it, so I'm not cut out for it, so I can't do it. No, I really just think is like this is not something I feel like I want to devote my time to. This is not. Um, I don't think this is my destiny to explore space. I would love to. That'd be cool, but that's not something I'm willing to work hard towards. And and I hate to admit it, but there's actually a lot that I'm not willing to work as hard towards. And in acting, producing, that's something I put everything into.
be.
Like I've been willing to sacrifice even my mental health for that,
Hmm.
um, because I just love it so much. Uh, and I think too, the reason I chose an artistic path, um, it's not easy. It's not easy. I wish I had a steady income. But the reason I chose it, I couldn't see myself going to a 9 to 5 every day, Monday through Friday,
Mhm.
and for the rest of my life. I couldn't. I'm very passionate about making money doing something I love. Um, and I mean, mind you, I've taken tons of jobs that I've not liked to do, but obviously you have to pay the bills.
Right.
And tons of artists do that. So
Mhm.
that doesn't mean the artists just don't do anything they don't want to do. We do a ton that we don't want to do. But I just knew that if I don't try, I mean, I get one life, and I feel like definitely if that speaks to you, whether by religion or just that you feel like that's the thing that I can work the hardest towards.
Mhm.
I had to go to that, and again, because like, yeah, with art, I mean, you'll ask any artist and they're like, but this is what I do. This is my gift. I have to share it. And it doesn't even go as deep as that. Some people are just like, well, this is fun and I like to do this. But
Mhm.
again, I think it goes down to what people are willing to work the hardest for, what people are willing to stick with and, persevere with.
Mhm.
And acting in the arts is something I feel is worth fighting for. But I do love the trees. I actually have a garden, and I would actually like to somehow um, mix agriculture and horticulture with um, the arts in some way.
Mhm.
So,
Hmm. Talk about the sacrifice aspect, because again, when you go down any path, there are sacrifices that you make to be able to get to where you want to go, whether that's in ministry, the training, and going through, starting at the bottom, but in being an artist. Whether that's you're making paintings and sculptures, whether you're writing plays, people look from the outside in and they see William Shakespeare,
right.
they see Michael Crichton, they see Denzel Washington. That's not most people who do what you do. So, what is that like to say, okay, this is my passion, this is what I want to give myself to? But as you said, you still got to pay the bill. So, what is that like on a day to day to live this kind of life, this artistic life?
Mm-hmm. Well, I can't speak for anyone else. However, I mean, at least a lot of the artists I've talked to, um, I know, they very few artists live on their own just because they can't really afford it. And there's no shame in that. They just, I was actually reading a book. Her name's Laura Clary, and she's hilarious. She's a YouTuber, but she's an actress. And I mean, she moved so many times when she lived in LA. So that's one. Um, Finding, the right housing for an artist. And then I think on a day to day, I mean, everyone has gigs. Really, I mean, most artists, especially in this area, just in the Midwest. I mean, I know it's everywhere, but at least the artists that I'm around, everyone has gigs. They might have their regular job, but it's very flexible, mm-hmm. which means it probably doesn't pay a lot, but it's at least some kind of steady income that allows them to go to auditions and rehearsals. And, so I think because the day to day, nothing is ever predictable. But that also means too, that because it is so like loosey goosey, that, I mean, you really do have to be organized and prepared, even more so because, I mean, really at the end of the day, all we're in charge of, and I mean, this just goes for life in general, is our effort and our preparation, mm-hmm. and everything else is. So I'd say a day in the life. I mean, I know, again, most artists live off of gigs, rehearsals, practicing, just trying to, it's never just one thing, mm-hmm. usually. I mean, if you're an active working artist, you're always working on the next thing. And, so it's definitely, that train is always moving.
Is that exciting? Is it scary? Is it a mix of the two?
Oh yeah, definitely a mix of the two. And I think sometimes, I know for me, just because I've had some mental health issues and, and I mean, you definitely have to have a good, healthy mindset to do this. Mm-hmm. And I would even challenge if you don't to step away, which, I mean, I've had to do that. But yeah, no, it's just very uncertain. And actually, I think because I believe in God, mm-hmm. that's helped me with acting, because I mean, it really is, faith and, because you're taking a leap and you don't know where you're going to land. Sure. And that's every day. Mind you, tons of artists are secular, and don't believe in God. So, but I think, the most successful artists still believe and have some faith, mm-hmm. that where they're going to get to, whether it's a higher power or not, that
just that there's a plan, right?
That there is a plan, yes. And that that they will get somewhere, through their effort, and through luck. Luck does play a little bit of a part.
Sure. Talk about the process a little bit. Again, I think, just last year, you were producing a play, which you were also in. Mm-hmm. And how did, for that, let's just use that. How did that come about? What made you decide, I want to do this one? And what was that like going through that process?
Well, I'll tell you where it did start. I had gotten back from a callback for 3 hours, and I had not auditioned for this particular theater in years. And I thought, okay, well, that sounds like a really good show. I'll go and audition. And I went to this callback. And again, it was like 3 hours long. I'm sitting there and I was prepared. I had my music down. I went, did my reading and my music. And I was like, yeah, killed that. Yeah. And then the director looked at me and was like, who are you? And I just remember thinking, I have been here 3 hours. It just made me so angry. I was like, I have been here for 3 hours and you're only going to let me sing once. And, I did well. And I was so angry. So that night I went, because I had been talking about this for years, having my own theater, dance, performing company. Mm-hmm. So that night I went and applied for the rights for this play. And they approved it that night. Or I think it was like 2 days later or something like that. It was really quick. And I was like, that's it. Because I just kept getting rejected. And I was like, this is stupid. Like not that I think I'm better than everyone else, but I was like, come on, I did well and I'm not getting anything. And and I'd been meaning to do this. And I think that was just a good kick in the butt to say, yes, let's go. It's your time to do what you've been wanting to do, which is, produce your own play. And I had always wanted to be in this particular play. It's called The Children's Hour.
Mm-hmm.
It was written 1936. Yeah. It was written in the 30s, but it's still it's very scandalous at the time, but it's really not. It was actually about two women who are wrongfully accused of being lovers at a school because this little girl, that one of their pupils, just is a spoiled brat and doesn't like them. And so she ends up ruining their school. And I think really, if anything, that speaks to the power of lies and what our words say. And I felt like that was just such a strong message. And within that, the play is so well written. It's written by a woman. You know, and it's all female except for like the one male part, two male parts in there. And so I was like, oh, this is great. And I can cast like a lot of girls to be in this. I know they'll want an opportunity. You know, I just wanted to work with some of the younger girls, you know, just because that's the next generation of people. I wanted them to see that, like, yeah, a woman can produce and write, direct, all this stuff. And I actually had a guy direct, and he's great. Basically, yeah, I was just like, I had this whole vision for what I wanted to see more of. And so I just did it. And in that, as a producer, I did all of the marketing. I mean, I produced everything. I was like, everything happened. And I don't say this, everything happened because of me, but like I did all the hiring. You know, I picked all the people. I did all the casting with the help of the director. Like the director did the bulk of the casting, but like he and I worked together on that.
Right.
You know, I made sure I had people hired for ticketing and house management and all that. And, you know, and it was actually one of the other theaters, the Carnegie, who let us rent out the space where we were. So, you know, it was great to work with other theaters, you know, to help us.
Sure.
And I mean, I did all the costuming. I had people bring things. So,
how labor intensive was that? I mean, from the time you decided to start until the final closing curtain, like how much time did you spend on this?
It was a solid 3 months of my life that you know, even when I was in class, I was in school, and I'm still in school at the time, but I was in school, you know, and during lecture, you know, I was always on the computer because I don't really do well with lectures anyway. So I was always on the computer, you know, looking things up. I mean, that was a solid 3 months of my life that if I wasn't working or just doing something that I absolutely had to do, I was doing that.
Mm-hmm. And what happened within the group as far as like the director, the other actors, actresses? I mean, was there a camaraderie there? Did you already know everybody? Did you become friends? Like what happens in that circle as you're working together that closely for such a long time?
I'd say I knew most of the cast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'd say all the little girls, because we had a lot of minors. So I didn't know, I had never met any of them before. And there are a few other roles, like maybe like 2 other adult roles that I didn't know. This is a cast of 12. So I'd say I knew like half and half. Mm-hmm. You know, I had known the director. Actually, the director and I both went to the same school. We just didn't go during the same time. And, you know, our male lead, I knew from just in the theater circle. I had been in one of his plays that he has directed. And then there was another girl that I had met just on a, you know, random like short film that I did. Mm-hmm. And she had her own theater company as well. And I went to go see that show. And I just thought she was a great actress. And like our lead actress dropped out. And so I called her the next day and was like, hey, do you want to be in our show? And she did it. So yeah, and there definitely was a camaraderie, but I think as a producer, sorry, I keep picking up my hair. It's a nervous habit, I think. I know as the producer of a show, being the showrunner and being in charge, yeah, there was a camaraderie, but I mean, I didn't really, other than like after opening night, you know, going to dinner, there wasn't a lot of hanging out. And that's not to say that we didn't like each other. I think it's just, I wanted to keep a distance, just a professional distance. Mm-hmm. Like even all the little girls had like a group like Snapchat thing going on, and it was really funny and cute, but I didn't want to be a part of that. And and I wasn't, like, and they don't want me as a part of their little, like, funny little clique. Um, but yeah, and I think as a producer too, that's one of the sacrifices, I think, is that you do have to keep a professional distance,
Hmm. Hmm.
which, it's totally fine. But it also means I couldn't have as much fun as everyone else.
Understandable. How was the experience itself? Like, did you feel like it accomplished what you wanted? Was it rewarding? Was it taxing? Was it all of that? I mean, what was
Surprisingly, it wasn't taxing. Like, I didn't have like any emotional breakdowns. It was great. I really, like, I was like, wow, this is like, it was like a good kind of stress, but it didn't feel like, I didn't feel burdened by it. I was happy to do this. I was happy to stay busy with this.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I loved the process. I mean, of course, there were tons of things that I was like, I was frustrated with, whether it was just meeting artistic deadlines, like getting lines memorized, or, just like small little things.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I know our theater was really echoey. And so getting the girls, some of the younger girls, to project
Mm-hmm.
was very difficult. And that was something that not everyone did. And so I was like, man, they can't hear them. But, I couldn't do anything about that. So, like just those small little things. I was like, okay, I just need to compromise on that. Okay. But really, I mean, for the most part, and then you giving us a rehearsal space, I mean, that was just, that was, for those who don't know, you helped me with rehearsal space. We used the church for that. And I mean, like, that's just unheard of, no one does that. So thank you. I mean, it's so impossible to find space, and people
Well,
are so like precious about their space. And I don't know why. Um, I mean, I'm sure you, like, in terms of like ruining it, like, we don't want to ruin it, but people just, goodness gracious, it's like pulling teeth to find space. So thank you. That was very, very helpful. That really, like, early on in the process, that really just alleviated. And actually, because we had that, we were able, it really kind of legitimized us, to show people, like, look, this is where we're going to be rehearsing. This is where we're going to be performing. It's all mapped out. It's happening. It's real.
yeah.
Um,
It's not in your living room.
it's not in my living room. No shame in that, but yes, it's a legitimate place. There's parking.
Always
um,
matter. So what's next for you now in terms of your theater company and all of that?
I would like to, I have a play in mind. I also have a musical in mind, but going back to space, I need space, and I can't find space to perform right now. And it's so frustrating. Um, and I'd say I can't find space that's affordable
Mm-hmm.
um, at the moment. So that's what I'm still looking for. But yeah, I'm planning a play and a musical next. I'm also in school right now studying film production and editing. So, I want to do something with that. And I'm getting a yoga teacher certification, so I can start teaching, because I teach fitness.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, just trying to like expand my skills in those areas.
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess that life just comes full circle. I'm always working on something,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's artistic or.
But the idea of being an artist is really having a lot of different irons and a lot of different fires. That.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. I mean, I'm always looking to expand my skills. And actually, my best friend, um, she's in Atlanta. She's an actor,
Mm-hmm.
and she gets commercials. She's gorgeous. She could model if she wanted to, but she is actually getting her pilot's license.
Wow.
Even though, like, we went to school, just under a decade ago, and now she's like, oh, and now I want to get my pilot's license. And she's flying, and everyone's always doing something. Yeah. Yeah. And I think with acting, ultimately, and I know this is how I refer to myself, is just as an adventurer. There are people who are way more adventurous than I am, but I'm just always, I'm an explorer. I want to explore and just see what's out there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and sure, that comes at a great cost, financially. I wish I had some stable income. But I think that also comes with being resourceful and creative and efficient. And all those things. So, and I think the world discredits artists thinking that they're just very, that they can only do one thing. And really, I think anytime someone chooses an artistic career, they're prepared to do whatever it takes to make it work. And whether that means learning new skills, they're more than happy to do that. And I think many artists are chameleons. You know, they want to be wanted, they want to be needed, they want to be useful. You know, and I think the most successful artists say yes to opportunity and don't just limit themselves to, no, I'm only going to do this. Some do, and I guess that works for them. But and I mean, you'll even find, you know, all those famous actors. They have their hands in other things. You know, they're not just acting. And
right.
Yeah.
What kind of response do you get from people when you tell them you're an actor, you're a producer? Do people kind of be like, really? How do you do that? Or are they supportive, or do they question? What's that like?
You know, it really just depends too. I think I've only ever had one negative reaction, but that person doesn't matter. So I think, huh?
I agree.
Yeah, yeah. That person was like, "What are you going to do with this? Like, really? Do you think you're going to do this?" And I was like, "Yeah, whatever." I think people, yeah, I actually, you know, I think more people are just curious. I'm like, okay, well, so how does that work? And I'd say, you know, like when I say I'm an actor, I mean, people only think of actors as you're either on Broadway or you're in movies or television. And oh my gosh, that would be awesome. But how do you think all of those actors got there? You know, there are those baby steps underneath, and there's kind of that tier. And I mean, there's no like one straight path to, you know, the top. But, you know, it starts with, you know, and I think especially doing your own work. You know, and I've told, and actually what I do when people do ask me that, some of them might laugh, you know, just I was like, oh, really? I present them with like what I've done currently. Like earlier this year, you know, I did a commercial, and, you know, I just tell them like, yeah, this is what I've been working on. And, you know, I tell them like, yeah, you know, I've made money doing it. I have to report that in my income and my taxes, you know, and I tell them like, yeah, like people have made movies here. There are regular working actors here, even in this city in Cincinnati. You know, they have a house, you know, they have a mortgage, and they pay that with their acting money. So I think it's just, if anything, challenging that conception of what it means to be an actor, and not just an actor, but an artist. And it's like, yeah, you can be a working artist. You don't have to be famous. And there's even a book called, you know, there's a couple books. There's one called How to Be a Working Actor. It doesn't say how to be a famous actor. It says how to be a working actor. You know, and I know actors who tour the country with their own show, you know, like making money through like different festivals. And then there's another book, and it features 4 actors, and it's something, I mean, I forget the name of it, but the main thing about it is all of these actors were successful, you know, constantly working. But if I were to mention their name, you likely wouldn't know who they were, but they were in some of the biggest movies ever. And really, I mean, I think that's, if anything, that's the thing to strive for, is just to constantly be working.
Sure. As we get ready to close up, you know, how do you feel the importance of art in our culture and our society today is like, is this a time where we need more of this artistic expression, where we need more of this going out to help people with different perspectives? Or do you think that we're kind of at a place where we're saturated with, you know, Hulu and Disney Plus and, you know, all those sorts of things? How does art fit in, I guess, is what I'm asking, to life today?
Yeah. I mean, art and entertainment, you know, some of them cross, you know, and again, it's all subjective. So I don't want anyone to think that I'm just going to, you know, judge what's on Disney Plus, because shoot, I think there's tons of great stuff. I think entertainment is saturated. But then again, I mean, you know, so is the law profession. You know, there's lawyers everywhere. That's saturated.
Sure.
But no one's ever going to, complain about too many lawyers. So, uh, there's tons of things, there's tons of industries that are saturated. So, and I was even told that last year that it's like, Blair, we have tons of theater companies, don't saturate the market. And I was like, but I have something to offer that I don't see a lot of in this city. So no, like
Mm-hmm.
so sure, yes, we're saturated. YouTube is saturated, but that doesn't stop people from, creating their own YouTube channel and monetizing from it.
Mm-hmm.
So sure, I'd say it's saturated, but within that, you're always going to find people devouring content.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of just like food.
Mm-hmm.
People want to see a new story. They want to see something new. I mean, how many times are we watching the same television series? I know I've only binge watched a series once, I mean, unless it's like really, really great, sure, maybe I'll go back. But how important is art? I think art is always important. And I think it fits into the cycle of everything else in our world. I don't think it's more or less important than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, but I think there are artists who are like, art is the most important thing. And I'm like, no, I disagree. I think medicine actually saves lives, but art can too.
Mm-hmm.
So um, and I mean, art produces empathy, and art, I feel like, is another light to shine on, a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I feel like it's very one-sided art lately, just in terms of like what people talk about, but that's another topic. Um, so I don't feel like art is any more or less important, but I will say, what was everyone doing during quarantine? Where did they go? They probably went to Netflix and Hulu and Disney Plus and every streaming service. And what were they watching? They were watching entertainment. They were watching art. They were watching actors and, directors, writers. It was because of that. It was because of all that collaboration that people could stay entertained and get their minds off of, the fact that, quarantine has just completely, uprooted our lives. Like everything is different.
Do you see
So
being different in what you do going forward because of everything with the pandemic? I know that's very specific to now, not people watching, maybe 6 months from now. But I mean, will we be able to just go back, in your opinion, to having packed theaters, whether that's for a play or whether that's for a movie or, an arena for a concert? Or do you think it'll have to look different?
You know what? I think it will get back to normal. I'm optimistic about that, but I think it'll take some time,
Hmm.
um, as with anything. But again, like there's a big, it's called the Fringe Festival, not the French Festival, the Fringe Festival. Um, a lot of those, like, then that's a huge, festival that happens every time in like May, June of this year. The Cincinnati Fringe Festival, that's canceled. Well, it's not canceled, it's been put online.
Hmm.
So that's a different way. Everyone is going to be streaming digitally. So they're still doing their art, but it's going to be digital. So no one's actually going to be meeting.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, I think for now, I mean, everything's going to be digital.
Hmm.
Whether people are reading a play or performing it, I think it's just going to be streamed.
Hmm.
I think eventually we'll go back to live theater where people have to leave the house. Yes, but I think that'll take some time.
Do you think
And
that the streaming aspect can make it easier for artists such as yourself to not only be able to get their content before more people, but also potentially to monetize it?
oh yeah, that's definitely a possibility. But what I find so curious, kind of remarkable, that people aren't willing to, like, people will pay, for Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, whatever. Um, and they'll pay for certain things that, I guess they find value in them, but like people sometimes just pay for stupid crap. We all do. But, you know, asking someone to, donate or pay you as an artist, it's like unheard of and unspeakable. It's so weird. So I think that's the big hurdle that artists have to overcome, is like, yeah, I'm going to charge for my art, and so I definitely think, yes, there is the possibility to monetize and to get it seen by more people. But I also think the audience has to be willing, um, to understand that not all of it's going to be free. A lot of it is. Artists are always giving out freebies, whether it's their time or, whatever. But yeah, so I'd say yes, that is a yes. And I hope that audiences are responsive to understanding that, yeah, can you donate some money? Can you, pay for a ticket here? Because actually a lot of the digital content, you do have to still pay a ticket for. You'll still be able to see it, but it's just like, watching a movie, at a movie theater, you have to pay admission.
If somebody is interested in finding out more about your theater, your productions and things like that, how could they get a hold of you to contact you?
Just go my name. You can just message me on Facebook. Really, it's pretty casual at this point. I do have like an official company, yes. But people can just Blair Gottschall. You can find me on Facebook or Instagram. Right. And just message me there.
Excellent. Any final thoughts that you would like to share?
Well, no. And just, I think the most successful artists create their own content. And if you want to get seen, I don't wait for anyone, because you'll be waiting a long time. There's casting directors I want to get in front of, but, and I can go and audition and, contact them. But if I'm not getting anything, ultimately at the end of the day, you're in charge of your effort, your preparation,
absolutely,
in your career. So
absolutely. Well, blessings to you. I look forward to the next production. Let's talk about that offline more, about how we might be able to help you
sure.
as well. But thank you for your time, and I appreciate your insights.
Yep.
Have a great one. And
cool. And am I leaving now? So
oh yeah, you're all good.
Okay. You're all good. I didn't know if you had more of the show.
So everybody, thanks for watching, and look forward to another episode soon. Bye.
Thanks.